I'm no millionaire, far from it. Not even half a millionaire. But when it comes to pleasure from children, I consider myself the equal of any millionaire in America. In my home on a holiday, when all my children get together, sons, daughters, in-laws, grandchildren, no one, and I mean no one can compare with me. Why? Because there is no family like my family. Take a holiday like Chanukah, or Purim, or any holiday. What does it mean if you sit down to eat all alone? Just you and the old lady? What does it mean without children? A jackass, if you excuse the expression, eats too. Horses eat. But man is no animal, especially a man on a holiday. This is where I come to my children. I have 8 of them, God bless them. 4 sons and 4 daughters. 4 sons-in-law and 4 daughters-in-law. There you already have a sum total of 16. Then there are the grandchildren, God bless every one of them. The Lord has been very good to my womenfolk, for they're always having children. Some have 7, some 9, some 5. There are no slackers in my family. We did have trouble with one boy. For a time, his wife bore him no children. No children is no children. What can you do about it? But my wife took it hard. It's not right, she said. So we argued back and forth till we decided they ought to be divorced. Settled? That's what you think. Came the time for action. She refused. She loves him. How do you like that for nerve? So I says to my boy, dope. What do you care if she loves you? Divorce her. So he says, I love her too. Did you ever see such a fool? I tell him children, and he tells me love. Go fight City Hall. Anyhow, to make a long story short, they were not divorced. But God in high heaven has been very kind. He has made her fertile, and since then, like clockwork, she's been giving me a new grandchild every year. You'll ask me how one provides for such a big family? So you'd better not ask. There's a wonderful God, and he takes care of everything. Sometimes he does it well, most of the time not so well. But what's the difference as long as you got your health? One son of mine had a little trouble. He played the stock market. He never had too much money, but he played. Came the depression, and he lost his shirt. They took him to the cleaners and did a good job. He's never been able to get on his feet again. He sits home and dreams of the day when he'll make a comeback. But he's my son, and I'm not going to let him starve. So I took him, his wife, and his children into my home until the time that he makes his comeback. Could I do anything else? My second son is one of those schlemiels who can't seem to make a go of anything. Whatever he does goes wrong. Some people turn to gold whatever they touch. With my son, it's just the opposite. Whatever he touches turns to dust. No luck. He bought wheat, and the grain market collapsed. He went into the coal business, and we had the warmest winter in years. Born unlucky, that's my boy. If he would turn to fishing, the sea would dry up. If he would become an undertaker, nobody would die. Hasn't got any luck, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I said to him, there's no use fighting it, my boy. Until your luck changes, take your wife and kids and live at my home. Now, don't you think I did right? Another son was quite successful. He had a dry goods store, and he made a good living. He did so well he could afford a maid and a Chevrolet. They went to the Catskills in summer and Miami Beach in the winter. Then one day the store burned down. He wasn't insured. And what should I tell you? He lost everything, and he moved with his wife and family into my house. What else? My youngest son is a real success. What do I mean by success? He has no money of his own, but he has a rich father-in-law. To tell you the truth, I don't know what his father-in-law does, nor does anybody else. He is what you call a Drake-up. Do you know what a Drake-up means? He is the fellow with the glib mouth and a big cigar who is always talking somebody into giving him something for nothing. In other words, he promotes. He promotes his family, his friends, his neighbors, everybody. In fact, he promoted my son out of his dowry and out of all his savings. This was too much for me, and I decided to have it out with this big shot. I went to see the father-in-law and said, "What's the idea of gambling with my son's money?" And he answered, "Look at him, his son's money. Will you tell me how much of it was his? But you had no right to lose his money, and you have no right to meddle in our business. He's my son, and she's my daughter." That's how it started, and that's how it ended. I was hurt, and he was insulted. I was mad, and he became angry. I said, "Bah," and he said, "Boo." I said, "No," and he said, "No, no." I said, "If," and he said, "Maybe." One word led to another, till I finally grabbed my son and said, "Phooey on that father-in-law of yours. You take your family and move in my house. I don't care what happens as long as we are together." Tell me, did I do right? With my sons-in-law, I'm completely behind the 8 ball. Mind you, I'm not complaining. They are all fine, capable, talented men, and I'm really proud of them. One especially is quite talented. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a genius. Writes poetry and is a great music lover. Always has his nose in books and knows everything. Psychology, biology, eschatology, numerology, you name it and he knows it. He's one of those ultra-refined, sensitive creatures. I've been keeping him in my house since the wedding. If you saw him, you'd know why. It would be a pity to let a fine boy like him out into that muddled, rough world. My second son-in-law is a jackass of all trades. He knows everything and does everything. He's already tried everything. He was a teacher, a druggist, a salesman, an insurance man. He knows everything except how to make a living. So I invited him and my daughter to stay with us. After all, did you expect me to turn away my own kin? Another son-in-law may not be as capable, but is still no ordinary so-and-so. His only fault is that he is anemic. He looks all right, but he's not. Sweats too much and always catches cold. As for allergies, you name it and he's got it. Of late, he's been coughing terribly. Also has some trouble about catching his breath. I think it's asthma. The doctor told him to drink milk and eat oranges and vacation in Phoenix, Arizona. In the meantime, until he can afford Phoenix, Arizona, he's vacationing with his wife and children at my home. Are you surprised? But my last son-in-law is a total disappointment. Not up to par at all. The poor fellow has to work for a living. And do you know why? Because he does not have the education or background of my other sons. He has a fish market. His father before him was in the fish business. His grandfather was a fish peddler. The whole family knows only one thing, fish. I'm not complaining. My daughter is happy with him. He's very good to her, and he respects me profoundly. In fact, he treats all my sons and sons-in-law with dignity and pride. What's the use kidding? He feeds and supports every one of us. Of course, it's the proper thing to do. After all, he knows the difference in our respective background. Because when the children get together and become engaged in one of those deep discussions, he has to take a back seat. He knows that we have class, and he doesn't. And it's only right that he should be proud to be one of us. Don't you think I'm right? Now that you know something about my family, you know what I mean by pleasure from children. Believe it or not, I get a kick of every one of them. On any holiday of the year, when the family gets together, nobody can touch us. After a plate of good noodle soup, a bottle of wine, and some hot Yiddish songs, all our worries are behind us. Who cares about the Rothschild? Who is Morgan? What Rockefeller? I'm richer than they are, believe me. As I said before, I'm no millionaire. But when it comes to pleasure from children, I'm the happiest millionaire in America. I was sitting at my desk, minding my own business, When he entered, he coughed, blew his nose, bowed, and introduced himself. I am, as you see, a young man from a small town. I won't tell you which town, because if I do, I would only get a lot of people into trouble, and that's not what I came for. I came because I want you to do me a favor. You're a famous man, a man who knows all the answers. So I want you to give me advice. I promise whatever you say, I'll do. I'll follow your advice to the letter, but to the letter. Take my word for it. Am I taking too much of your time? No? Thank you. I suppose you want to know who I am and what I do. Well, I won't tell you who I am because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. What I do? Nothing. You see, my father-in-law has a lot of money, so I don't have to do anything. I married his one and only daughter, and he has enough money to support us and other couples like us for the rest of our lives. I will tell you his name, but what's the use? You probably heard of him because he is a big contributor to the national charities. To tell you the truth, he's a small spender in his own hometown. There, people cater to him anyway, so why should he waste his money on them? The very people who flatter him to his face say the nastiest things behind his back. And most of them are true, too. But my father-in-law takes everything in his stride. He has all the money, so why should it bother him? He lives in the nicest home, eats the best food, and has the biggest belly in town, so why should he worry? Anyhow, I, their son-in-law, am in the doghouse. Do you know why? Because I don't hobnob with their friends, and because I don't play gin rummy. When family and neighbors get together for a friendly game of gin rummy, I go to my room to read a book. Is that bad? After all, I don't play the game. What am I supposed to do? Kibitz and yawn while they haggle over pennies? Still, they're mad. Not that they say anything, but if looks can tell stories, brother... Am I taking too much of your time? No? Good. So is it any wonder that my wife and I don't get along? Especially if you bear in mind that she's an only child, the apple of their eye, the light of their life, the cream in their coffee. I don't have to tell you. Every time she coughs, they call a doctor. Her nose runs, they call a doctor. She sneezes, they call a doctor. Is it any wonder that she thinks she's the queen of the roost? Is it any wonder that she expects the sun, the moon, and the stars to revolve around her? Add the fact that she's beautiful, but spoiled. And at the slightest provocation, she throws herself on the bed and cries. What's the matter? What did I do? What did I say? Go talk to the walls, for all I can get out of her. It wouldn't be so bad if my mother-in-law didn't mix in. After all, many young couples have arguments and manage to get over them. But no sooner does my mother-in-law hear a whimper out of her darling, then she's up in our bedroom, moaning and cursing. Aha! He's done it again, the no-goodnik, the murderer. You want to kill somebody? Kill me. Why her? It hurts him that I have but one child, one precious little baby, one honey of a child, one little lamb. When she talks like that, I feel like... Excuse me, mister. You wanted to ask me some advice. Oh, yes, of course, I'm coming to that. But maybe I'm taking too much of your time? No? Okay. You understand, of course, that any advice you give me will be carried out to the letter, but to the letter. Everything I said up to now was by way of introducing my in-laws. Anyhow, to make a long story short, as soon as the old lady starts to scream, my father-in-law is upstairs, and then I get it from both of them. Right away, they sent for the doctor. There is only one doctor in town, and he is the source of all my troubles. He is one of those handsome young fellows who just finished college. He specializes in women's ailments. My wife is his first and best customer. His father, a clothing salesman, helped put him through college, and he brags everywhere about the wonderful job he did with him. Once this doctor gets a patient, and through him his father, and through his father the whole town knows everything there is to know about her and her whole family. Anyhow, the doctor is the bane of all my troubles. If it weren't for him, I might somehow or other overlook things. After all, my wife is a beautiful girl, even though I'm not madly in love with her. The family is well fixed, and because of them, I enjoy a certain status in the community. But when I see how she comes to life and sparkles every time he visits her, I feel like making a clean break with it all. I did decide once to have it out with her. I asked her, how come she acts like a different person when the doctor sees her? Do you know what she did? She got hysterical. First laughed, then cried, then threw herself on the bed and cried some more. Then my mother-in-law came up, began to wring her hands and moaned. No, you maniac. You're at it again, huh? You won't be satisfied until you kill her. Why don't you kill me instead? You want my blood. Take my blood, and so forth and so on, and so forth and so on. If my father-in-law comes up, right away they sent for the doctor. And what do you know? The minute he arrives, she's all smiles and sparkles again. To make a long story short, I've come to the conclusion that I ought to divorce her. That's why I came to you. You know everything. Give me advice. And I promise to follow it to the letter. But to the letter. So tell me, what do you think I should do? Don't you think I ought to divorce her? Well, I said, under the circumstances, it might be better if you divorce her. After all, there are no children, and as you say, you don't love her. Definitely, it seems to me that divorce is the only way out. Do you really think so? All right, so I'm not madly in love with her. But I don't hate her. Look, I'm a lonely person, an orphan, and without a friend in the world. Suppose I decide to remarry. How do I know I'll do better the next time? Why gamble? You know what I mean? So what do you think? Don't you think I'm right? Well, under the circumstances, I answered, it might be better if you don't divorce her. What? How can you say such a thing? Have you forgotten about the doctor and his father? All over town, they've spread the rumor that we can't get along. Now everybody expects me to get a divorce. How can I let them down? I ask you. It seems to me that I have no other choice but to divorce her. Don't you think so? Of course, since everybody already knows about it, perhaps it would be better for you to divorce her. Oh, it's easy for you to say that. You're not married to her. You tell me how one leaves a beautiful woman whose father is going to leave her so much money, huh? She likes the doctor, so what? Is that ground for a divorce? Is that ground for leaving a rich man's daughter, the future heir to all his wealth? Does it make sense? No, it doesn't. How dare you say that it doesn't? Suppose you had a fat slop for a father-in-law, a mother-in-law like that, and a wife who's always crying for her pretty-faced doctor. You would get a divorce in a minute, wouldn't you? I suppose I would. Oh, you would you, huh? And the fact that she's beautiful, and an only child who's going to inherit all that money when the old man croaks? Give me a good reason why I should divorce her. I don't have any, so don't divorce her. What do you mean, don't divorce her? As long as she has an eye for that handsome doctor, I'll never have peace of mind. Well, then divorce her. You have no right to say that. Without money and without a wife, what will become of me? You know all the answers, so tell me. Don't divorce her. Oh, yeah? What do you mean, don't divorce her? I really don't know what happened to me at the moment. I grabbed him by his lapels, shook him and shouted, "Divorce her, you idiot! Divorce her! What the devil do I care what you do? Divorce her, idiot! Divorce her, you schlemiel! Divorce her! Divorce her!" I was sitting in a subway headed for Lower Manhattan when a Jewish fella came over and sat down beside me. It doesn't take long for two Jews to start a conversation. I was the first to speak. "You are going to 2nd Avenue?" "That's right. How did you know?" "How do I know? One supposes. Visiting, do you live there?" "I live around there. Why?" "Delancey Street?" That's right. How did you know? I figured it out. A lively neighborhood to the east side. Nice, friendly people. Tell me, is the Lancer Street a big street? What do you call a big street? A street like any other street. A fine street. A fine neighborhood. I mean, do you have any big people there? Important, wealthy, substantial? We have rich people and we have poor people. Naturally, more poor than rich. The same in my neighborhood. One rich man and 24 paupers. Do you know a fellow there by the name of Scheike Finkelstein? Of course, who doesn't know Scheike Finkelstein? Why do you ask? Do you know him? I don't know him, but I've heard a lot about him. Is he really as rich as they say he is? How would I know? I never counted his money. Why do you ask? Is it in regards to credit? Oh, no. Just a matter of curiosity. They say he has a daughter. Is that right? He has 3 daughters. Why do you ask? Is it in reference to a match? How much of a dowry is he offering? No, it's nothing like that. Just curiosity, that's all. I hear he is quite a fella, this Scheike Finkelstein. A fine man, huh? Oh, very fine. Highly respectable. A wonderful man. Although it's said that in matters of religious observance he is... But this is a lie. What's a lie? Everything they say about him is a lie. I want you to know that the Lancer Street has quite a few liars. I'd still like to know what they say about him. They say he doesn't go to synagogue on the Sabbath. That's all. That's all, he says. What else did you want? He should eat lobster, ham, bacon, the way some people I know do? Of course not. But the way you said it, I thought he was God knows what. After all, it's a man's personal integrity which counts. What I meant to ask was, is Scheike Finkelstein an upright man? Is he decent, honest? What do you mean by honest, decent? A man like other men, a fine man, a very fine man. Although it is said that... but it's a lie. What is it, a lie? I've already told you that you can't believe everything they say about Scheike Finkelstein. The Lancer Street has quite a few idlers, gossipers, and liars. Frankly, I don't like to repeat a lie. If you know it's a lie, it can't hurt to repeat it. Well, they say he's a cheat. A cheat? That's right. But everybody in business cheats today. Are you in business? Yes. And don't you, in some respect, cheat? Please. To you, all cheats are alike. About this fellow, they say that... but it's a lie. What do they say? I'm telling you, it's a lie. I would like to know this lie. They say he went bankrupt 3 times. I think it's a lie because I know of only 1 time. Is that all? Do you know of a businessman who hasn't gone bankrupt? A man in business has debts. A businessman without debts is no businessman, isn't it so? By you, everything is a debt. This fellow owes everybody money. So what? So he's a clever man, if that's all they say against him. He can't be such a bad fella. Do you want he should kill people? Rob, maybe? Commit every crime in the book? Come to think of it, there is an awful story about him. But that's an out-and-out lie. What story? Something about a check to which he... A forgery, perhaps? That's right. And believe me, it cost him a pretty penny to get out of it. Oh, well, everybody's entitled to one mistake in his life. One mistake? I know of at least 3 mistakes in Finkelstein's life. Such as? Such as the time his store burned down and people said, but it was just another one of those lies. You mean people said he made the fire himself so as to collect the insurance? That's right. How do you know? I don't know, but I'm putting 2 and 2 together. But you said something about other mistakes. I said? Look, mister, I didn't say. Get this straight. These stories are not mine. These stories were repeated again and again by his neighbors on the Lancer Street. I know, but what? What other things do they say about him? It's a disgrace to repeat all the gossip one hears about this man. Just because he has himself a pretty stenographer, they said that... Oh, he had an affair with her? That's right. How did you know? I told you I can put two and two together. But what about his children? Didn't you tell me he had three? Yes, 3 daughters, 2 married and 1 single. Wonderful girls, fine children, very fine. They do say about the oldest one that she... but this is a lie. What do they say? They say she bleaches her hair. But I know it's a lie because she's not that modern. But about the second girl... But you can't believe what the Lancaster says. I would like to know what the Lancaster says. I've already told you it's a street of ill-wishers, gossipers, and liars. Who but at the Lancaster would make something of a girl seen with a sailor in a dark street in the middle of the night? Only that. So what else? Did you want her to elope with a gangster like her other sister did? What's this? What's this? Tell me. It's not right to dignify all the nonsense dreamed up by the Lancaster. Besides, I don't like to repeat a lie. But you already told me so many lies. It wouldn't hurt to tell one more. Who, me? I tell lies? Look, mister, these things I've been telling you are not my own lies. They're other people's lies. You're a strange one. You keep asking like a district attorney, and all the time you don't say a thing yourself. Well, anyway, it's 2nd Avenue, and I'm getting off. Pfui, how I hate to lie. I simply hate to lie. Goodbye, mister. A businessman or a traveling salesman, and you have to ride on trains most of your life, it can be quite a problem to find the right fellow passenger to talk to. Not all travelers are alike. There are those who talk too much and those who don't talk at all. Who knows what's bothering them? For one reason or other, they're mad at the whole world. Maybe they have a toothache or stomach ulcers. Who knows? I know what you are going to say. Why talk at all? Why not read a newspaper, a magazine, or a book? And if you really want to kill time, what's better than a game of cards? Especially if the game happens to be Pinochle. Believe me, there's nothing like a Pinochle to pass the time on a train, particularly if you play with the right company. But if you play with the wrong people, God help you. Personally, I make it a rule never to play on a train with someone I don't know. Nor will I play when there are kibitzers peeping over my shoulders and telling me what card to play, what move to make, when to bid and when to pass, and so on. Everybody on a train is an expert, and everybody knows how to play Pinochle. I tell you, they're like flies in summer. The more you chase them, the more they buzz around you. Please, mister, go away. Who sent for you? Who wants your advice? Who needs you? Can you talk to a brick wall? That's how you can talk to a kibitzer. Personally, I like Pinochle. I don't know about you, but I like Pinochle. I know the game, and I can play it day and night. But I won't play with people I don't know. But I will make some exceptions. So this happened while I was traveling during the week of Chanukah, the one week in the year when our rabbinical authorities don't frown on card playing. In those days, I carried large sums of money with me. Who believed in banks in those days? I used to keep my money in a thick wallet in my breast pocket, and for extra precautions, tied it with a double string. Anyhow, I was traveling on Chanukah when at one of the stops, 2 passengers got on and occupied the seats right next to mine. One was a bearded old man of 60 or 70, and the other was a young snot-nose in his middle 20s. They were obviously father and son. It wasn't long before we struck up a conversation, and it turned out that I was right. They were father and son. "Gentlemen, do you know what holiday it is this week?" the young man asked. "No," I replied. "Chanukah," he said. And to his father he turned and he said, "Pop, in honor of Chanukah, how about a game of Pinochle?" Well, no sooner than you can say Sholem Aleichem, a deck of cards was whipped out, the suitcase placed between their legs for a table, and the game was on. It was a lovable sight to see father and son indulging in a good-natured game of pinochle. Frankly, I felt like playing in the worst way, but I wasn't going to give in to temptation by breaking my own rule, not even on Chanukah. So I sat alongside the old man and watched them play. They played terribly. It was obvious that they didn't know the game at all. By way of conversation, the kindly old man asked me if I understood the game. And little I said, and I smiled because it was awful to watch those two play. Never in my whole life did I see two people more ignorant of the game, especially the old man. I must have had a will of iron to hold back for as long as I did. Imagine, they're down to the last two cards. The old fellow has an ace and a jack of trump. He needs only 1 point to make his bid. What does the old ignoramus do? He leads with his jack instead of his ace. The son puts down a queen of trump and took the trick. Then he led with the ace and he caught the father's ace. I tell you, I was so sick at the way the old man played, I was fit to be tied. Another time, he had a run which consisted of an ace, a 10, a king, a queen, and a jack. I expected him to bid, and I nearly died when he passed. This was more than I could stand. I bawled him out good and proper and told him he had no right to play when obviously he didn't know the game. Pop's not such a hot player, the young man said. Pop, you can't play pinochle. Not only can't he play, I said in a rage. Your father shouldn't be allowed to play. Here, let me. Give me a chance to celebrate Chanukah. But the old man didn't want to budge. And it was only after extreme coaxing and only after I promised to let him get back after a few hands that he quit. Well, how high do you want to play? The son asked. As high as you want to go. Is one all right? It's all right with me, as long as your father doesn't stay by your side and advise you how to play. We all started to laugh, and the game was on in earnest. What should I tell you? I won 1, 2, 3 games. The boy got excited and asked to double the stakes. Want to double the stakes? I said, double the stakes. So you lose twice as much. And he did, too. He got more excited and asked to double again. He thought he'll win everything back in quick order. So he doubled again and he lost again. Then he really got mad and insisted on a $25 game. The old father put his foot down and absolutely forbade the son to play anymore. But he wouldn't listen. So we played for $25 and he continued to lose. The father was real mad. He got up, sat down, looked over my shoulder, counted my cards. All the time he was humming, coughing, sneezing, and blowing his nose. And the son, he was aflame with card fever. The more he lost, the more feverish he became. The old man was beside himself with rage. He insulted the boy to get him to quit, called him every low name in the book. He still continued to look at the cards, humming, coughing, sneezing, and blowing his nose. It didn't help. The son continued to lose, hand after hand. Finally, the old man banged his fist on the suitcase and shouted, "Under no circumstances will I permit you to continue with the game." The son pleaded, "For heaven's sake, father, just one more hand. This is positively the last one. I swear it. I shouldn't live to get up if I play after this one." "Oh, let him play," I said to the old man. "Only one more hand." Well, the cards were dealt, and he finally won. To tell you the truth, I was happy to see him win. I felt sorry for him. Now he wanted to continue the game. It was ridiculous, but you can't say no to a fellow who had lost heavily to you. So we played another hand, another, and another, and he won all of them. What should I tell you? The wheel turned, and the luck was now all on his side. "How come you don't shout at the boy now? How come you don't call him names?" I asked the old man. "Don't worry," he answered. "He'll get plenty for me when he get home. He'll remember me for the rest of his life." That's what the old man said, continuing to look at my cards and continuing to hum, cough, sneeze, and blow. Suddenly, I didn't like what he was doing. As long as I was winning, I didn't mind. Look, cough, sneeze, blow, do what you like, see if I care. But as my losing streak continued, the thought suddenly dawned on me that the old guy could be passing signals to the son. In the meantime, I kept losing hand after hand. Every 10 minutes I would turn aside, take out my wallet, untie the strings, and take out another 100, another 100. The old guy would tap me gently on the shoulder and say, oh no, I wouldn't let you do this. This must be your last 100. This only made me mad. What business is it of yours, I said. How do you know it's my last 100? And to spite him, I would bet the whole 100. When I was finally cleaned out, as naked as the day I was born, I realized that this whole thing was a setup. I could even swear I saw the young man passing some money to the old man. Who knows? Maybe the father wasn't a father and the son wasn't a son. But what could I do? What could I say? In the meantime, we neared our destination. As the train pulled in, I realized that I didn't even have a tip for the porter. I went over to the old man and I asked him for a small little loan. Why ask me? What's the matter with him? The young fellow sat there and pretended not to hear. Well, how should I end it for you? The first passenger off the train was yours truly. Once out, I began to shout, police, thieves, robbery. The sun vanished into thin air. They did catch the old man, but he denied everything. He didn't know from nothing. According to him, there were no cards and no game. Pinochle? He never played it. A son? Never heard of it. This man must be sick in the head, he pointed at me. To tell you the truth, the old crook was so convincing, I really began to believe myself that I was sick in the head. Who knows? Maybe he was right. Maybe there was no Pinochle. No father, no son. Maybe I never had any money on me. Maybe it all happened in my own head. As I said in the beginning, when traveling on trains, as a matter of principle, Chanukah or no Chanukah, I never play with people I don't know. Never. Happy Chanukah to all of you. A man who gives in to a wife can be his own worst enemy. I'm talking about myself. Who am I? An average, ordinary fella with nothing special on the ball. By my looks, you can't tell if I'm up or down, dumb or bright, rich or poor. Anyway, looks are deceiving. But believe me when I tell you that I once had a successful business, many friends, and the respect of all my neighbors. All this I achieved in a quiet way without making enemies and without running myself down to an early grave. It could have gone on forever if the Lord hadn't blessed me with a wife who wanted to be more than a wife. She wanted to be a wife, a husband, a mother, and a father. Don't get me wrong. I love my wife. She's a wonderful woman, God bless her. Not bad-looking and not stupid. I mean, she's quite smart. That's the whole trouble. She's so smart, she thinks she's equal to any man. She thinks she can run the world better than any man. She took it into her head that our son, Moshe, must go to high school. Sounds pretty simple to you, who live in a free country like America, where education is available to all, regardless of race or creed. But in Russia, where I lived, such things weren't so simple. There were religious barriers, class discrimination, quotas, and so on. I said to my wife, where is it written that he has to go to high school? For my part, he can get his high school education in my store. That didn't satisfy her. The modern world expects a man to have a high school education, she insisted. I argued, reasoned with her, but it was to no avail. For every point I made, she came back with 6. For every argument, she answered with 7. If I said nothing, she cried. Or she'd get sick and I had to run for a doctor. What can you do with a woman like that? So I gave in. We began to prepare him for a high school. That is more easily said than done. First of all, a fellow had to take an examination. That didn't worry me so much, because my boy, who had a brain second to none, would pass it with flying colors. I say this in all modesty, even though I'm his father. So what do you think happened? He took the examination and failed. Can you imagine anything more ridiculous? Here is a brain second to none, and he flunks in mathematics. Frankly, I wasn't disappointed, because it made no difference to me. So he didn't pass. So what? So he'll become a businessman like his old man and make a lot of money. Is that bad? But for my wife, it was. She took it real hard. She swore to high heaven that her boy must go to high school. So we prepared him for more examinations. I tell you, it was a shame and a pity to see that boy study and sweat. Of course, I wasn't worried about his passing. After all, he did have a brain second to none. So he took another examination and failed again. This time it was spelling. Funny, isn't it? I, his father, can't even write, let alone spell. Yet I managed to build a successful business. Believe me, I wish my boy would do as well. I should worry because he can't spell. Not my wife. Once she makes up her mind, wild horses can't stop her. She argued with the teachers, the principal, the inspectors, everybody. She pleaded, cried. Her frustration she let out on me. It was all my fault. If I were a real father, I'd do something. Get a special tutor to help him with the spelling. Well, this is just what I did. You should have seen the tutor. He treated us with the greatest contempt. Made us all feel like dirt under his feet. If it weren't for my wife, I would have taken him by the seat of his pants and thrown him out on his ear. But my wife was willing to endure any humiliation as long as it helped our son to get into high school. Well, our Moshe took the examination and passed it with exceptionally high grades. But when it came to admission, it turned out that high grades weren't good enough for Jews. They had to be at the very top of the list in order to qualify. Well, you must understand that in those days, only a limited quota of Jews were accepted. And those had to be at the very, very top of the list. To tell you the truth, I wouldn't care if he were at the very bottom of the list. But to make a long story short, he studied again, took the examinations again, and came out at the very, very top. Naturally, I was proud. Didn't I say all along that his brain was second to none? But what was the use? They still wouldn't take him. My wife was fit to be tied. It's your fault, she screamed. If you were a real father, you'd do what the other men do. You'd talk to the right people, make contact, pay off if you have to. That's what other fathers do. So I poked around and searched for the right contact. Finally, I hit upon the principal and presented him my plea about the merits of my son Moshe Katz, who had a brain second to none. But he was deaf or something because he didn't seem to understand. What can you do with a guy like that? I tried again, and as I spoke, I quietly slipped him some hard cash. Suddenly he understood every word. He assured me that when the authorities meet in January to admit new students, he'll say a good word about him. Now things began to look up. Came January, and the wife was frantic with worry. She stood in the cold in front of the high school building and buttonholed everyone who came out for information on the meeting. At the end of the day, she cornered some teacher who told her that 85 pupils were accepted, 83 Gentiles and 2 Jews, one named Shepselson and the other named Katz. As soon as she heard the name Katz, she ran home and with joy mixed with tears shouted the good news. Mazel tov, he is in, he's been accepted, Mazel tov. We made a big party and invited all our friends and neighbors. The boy I dressed in a brand new high school uniform with white buttons and a hat that made him look like a general. Everybody praised him and wished him luck. So we took the boy to school in his new uniform. Nobody seemed to pay any attention to us. I inquired in the office and found out that it wasn't Moshe Katz who was accepted, but Mordecai Katz. There was more than one Katz in the city. What should I tell you? It broke my heart to see the boy take off the uniform with the white buttons and the hat which made him look like a general. He cried like a baby. Do you think it stopped my wife? Not at all. He'll go to high school yet. If not now, then later. If not here, then in some other town. If not in this country, then in another country. What should I tell you? We dragged the poor kid from city to city. He was interviewed and re-interviewed, examined and re-examined. He got the best marks. He made the finest impression. But what good did it do? The quota was hard to beat. Finally, I located a high school in Poland, which was then a part of Russia. The school allowed one Jewish student for every Gentile one. We had to find our own Gentile candidate. Of course, pay for his tutoring, pay for his tuition, and pay for his upkeep. Not only did I have to finance my son, I had to finance somebody else's son. And mind you, they were doing me a favor. So I found me a shoemaker's son, and the two boys were admitted together. Believe me, it was a great day in our house when it was officially announced that Moshe Katz was a full-fledged high school student. You think this is the end of the story? Not quite. A few weeks pass, and my wife tells me that her life is empty without the boy. It was a pity to leave him alone in a faraway city. Sure enough, she packed her bags and moved to the town where the high school was located. I tell you, my enemy should have the kind of a life I was forced to live. No wife, no son, no home, nothing. Bit by bit, everything went to pot. First the house, then the business. After some months, I sold everything at a terrible loss. Moved to the town where my wife and son were. Started again from scratch. And after a while, I built another little business. You think this is the end? Listen to this. One day, I come home, and I find my big brain without his high school uniform. Where's the suit, I ask. What suit? The one with the white buttons and the hat like a general. Oh, that one. I'm not going to wear it anymore. I quit. What? We all quit. We are all together now, Jew and Gentile. We are on strike. We are striking in protest against government oppression. We are all together in this. You hear? I was going to give him a piece of my mind, but my wife, she took his side. You'll never understand these modern times, she said. Things are changing. A new world is in the making, which will be much better than the world we know. No? How do you like my little philosopher? Will somebody please tell me why in the world the Lord created women?